Hello, and welcome to another edition of Careers in STEM. And today we'll be talking about scientific research. So I have a quote here, and it says, scientific research is creative and systematic work with the purpose of increasing the stock of scientific knowledge and the use of this stock of knowledge to devise new application. And this is from the scientific journal called Francescati Manual. And so this just gives us a definition of what scientific research is. It's basically adding to the stock of knowledge that is already existent with the purpose of increasing that stock of knowledge and devising new ways to apply the already existing knowledge that we have. Okay, so as a scientific researcher, you'll be asking questions and attempting to answer those questions with the goal of adding to scientific knowledge. Okay, so fields in scientific research. There are three major fields. You have formal science, natural science, and social science. So formal sciences, they include the scientific study of logic, mathematics, and the use of reasoning and deduction to answer questions as opposed to observation, which you will see mostly in social and natural sciences. So this area covers your math, mostly your math, formal sciences. It does go a little into several kinds of theory, but the main characteristics that they all share is the use of logic as opposed to observation per se. Then natural sciences, which is my area, is a scientific study of natural phenomena, including cosmological, geological, physical, chemical, and biological factors of the universe. And so natural sciences can be divided into two main branches. You have the physical science and the life science. So on the physical science, you have things like chemistry and physics. And under biological science, you have your biology, zoology, botany, things that study things that are alive. While physical science, they don't study necessarily living things, but they're still on the natural sciences because they study several aspects of the universe. Okay, and then social sciences is a scientific study of human behavior and societies. So this mostly focuses on human behavior. Social science can also be applied to the animal world, but in that area, it would be more zoology. So zoology bleeding into social science, when you study animal societies. Social science, as we know it, is mostly the study of human behavior and human societies. Okay, so branches under natural and social sciences. So under your natural and social sciences, you have several branches, and this list is not extensive. I just went ahead and picked some rather common areas, or not so common areas, that I studied under natural and social sciences. So under natural sciences, you have biomedical engineering and biophysics. We have talked about this before in previous video. This is combining mechanical engineering to physics or to natural science. And in this area, you end up creating things like heart pacers, pacemakers, heart monitors, and prosthetics for amputees and stuff like that. That's what biomedical engineering entails. It also entails, engineering organisms to, have certain traits and do certain things that you want them to do. Then you have cancer biology, which is, the study of cancer cells. Cell biology, which is the study of cells. Chemical biology, which the study of chemicals in living things. Chromosome biology deals with genetics. Clinical research, this is where you run research, and this can go from testing medication to observing human behavior or studying sleep. It could vary. In computational biology, this deals with collecting data on specific areas and things you're studying. And then developmental biology deals with the growth of fetuses and up until gestation, throughout gestation and up until birth. And then epidemiology, which is the study of diseases on a large scale, like pandemics, epidemics, and an example of which would be the current COVID-19 situation. And you have genetics and genomics, which study, genetics in humans and, the inheritance of traits and diseases and, all that fun stuff. Then health disparities takes it a little bit broader. So they look at specific populations, and this could be races, economic groups, ages, sexes, and they study the differences in health among those groups. That tests the disparities. And immunology studies the immune system and how our bodies fight against diseases. Microbiology study microbes, so very tiny living organisms like bacteria and viruses. Molecular biology goes even smaller in scale, and so you study specific molecules in living things. The molecular pharmacology applies how medicine or drugs or medication affects us on the molecular scale. Neuroscience studies neurology, so your brain and nerves and how they work. And RNA biology is a specific set of genetic material, and you study RNA in several living things. Then under social sciences, you have social and behavioral sciences, and so you study societies, and you could be studying different things in societies. You could be studying patriarchy, matriarchy, social support systems, and belief systems, religion, several things in behavioral and social sciences. Then stem cell biology deals with stem cell. Structural biology deals with the structure. This mostly deals with proteins. The systems biology, you deal with specific systems in living things. There are a lot. This is by no means extensive. There are several other aspects of natural and social sciences, but these are just a couple of them. Okay, so branches in formal sciences. The formal sciences deals with logic, mathematics, statistics, theoretical computer science. And so this, it's computer science, but on a theoretical level. This with a lot of math, artificial intelligence, which is robotics, information technology, information theory. This studies the computation and collection and storage and evolution of information. Game theory and decision theory are somewhat related because they deal with the outcomes of human decisions. And so how do people make decisions? And this goes from people to computers. So they just study decisions. And systems theory, they theorize, they do the theory work for several systems, and this could be systems in a computer. They have theoretical linguistics, which study the evolution of language and the purpose of language. They just study language on the theoretical level. Not necessarily studying it to speak it, but studying it from the evolutionary standpoint of it and the function of language. And this could be any language. It could be AI, artificial intelligence language, computer language. It could be human spoken language as well. Okay, so undergraduate majors for scientific research. So these are the typical majors that people who want to specialize in scientific research usually gravitate to. And so you have biology. And under biology, you could do anything from botany to zoology to, you just do anything, go crazy with biology. And then you have chemistry, which, study chemistry and, begin doing your research on different molecules and trying to come up with different new chemicals and substances. You have biochemistry where you combine biological chemicals and you study the chemical processes of those molecules. So you deal a lot with what are they called? Hydrocarbons and naturally occurring chemicals. You have physics, and you study physics. It's a very math-heavy field, and also mathematics. You have psychology that deals with the social sciences, and there you study human behavior and the evolution of a culture and tradition and religion, all that fun stuff. Okay, so what are the careers in scientific research? So research scientists usually work at colleges and universities, or for nonprofit organizations, government agencies, private research institutes, and development companies. And so they usually work as professors. So as a professor, you require a 4-year PhD degree before you can, become a professor. As a professor, you not only do you teach classes, you also have a laboratory that you perform your research. And if it's a research that doesn't require a lab, you have your team that you perform your research with. I'll give you an example. I am currently working with a medical sociologist. He doesn't necessarily have a lab per se, but he has a team, and they go out and study how human beings in different communities interact with healthcare in that community. Then you have a research scientist, which doesn't have to teach, but you can also perform research. And this usually requires either a master's or a PhD. You can work as in a private or government-owned lab. You can work for agencies like NASA and the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control. And you can work in medical clinics and institutions. So you can work for like a lab corporation that does tests for hospitals, and when your doctor orders a test, research scientists or who works in a medical clinic could perform those tests, like a blood test, a pregnancy test, and provide those results to the patients. Okay, so those are the careers. And then the ending outlook for careers in scientific research. So I just give a couple examples. So you have a chemist and material scientists. They will make a median pay of about $78,790 per year, with an average of $37 per hour. Your typical entry level education for this career is usually a bachelor's degree. Then you have your post-secondary educators and researchers. These are your professors. So they have a 2019 median pay of $79,540 to about $202,000 a year. And your typical entry level is like a master's or a PhD. You have computer and information research scientists, and so they make up to $122,000 a year, with an average of $60 per hour. And the medical scientists, they make up to $88,000 a year, with an average of $42 per hour. Your typical entry education for this is a doctoral or a professional degree. Okay. So now let's move on to science education. The science education is basically teaching science, the secondary education, so a high school science or middle school science teacher. And so how do you become a teacher in the scientific field? Because teaching a science is a STEM career. Okay. So how to become a teacher? So you earn a bachelor's degree in the subject you want to teach, or you complete your teacher preparation and complete teacher preparation as part of a degree program. So usually you don't go through the typical route of just getting a bachelor's in a science. Usually you go through a teaching program while you get your bachelor's in that science. And that teaching program gives you exposure to a classroom and teaches you specifically how to become a teacher, not necessarily how to become a scientist per se. You learn how to become a teacher of that scientific subject. So after you finish your bachelor's in the teaching program under that science, you go on to complete a teaching internship in a science classroom at the grade level that you want to teach. So this is usually after graduation. You have a period of time where you shadow a teacher, or you do like a mock teaching where a teacher is present and they watch you while you teach and give you feedback. You do that for a period of time to prepare. And then once you're done with that part of it, you take your state's required test for educators. So you take a teaching test. And once you take that test, you apply for your teaching license. And upon getting the license, you begin to apply for open positions for science teachers. And in some cases, some school districts that I've heard of, you have to have a master's degree to teach certain sciences. And I'm not quite sure that it really applies to us here in Texas, but in some states, you have to have a master's. But in Texas, just your bachelor's and your teaching certificate, and you are good to become a science teacher. So what is the job earning and outlook for science teachers? And so usually high school science teachers, 2019 median pay was $61,660 per year. And typical entry level is a bachelor's degree, like we talked about, with your teaching license. And then your work experience required, really no work experience is required because you usually come straight from your bachelor's and you start teaching. Then on the job training, yes, like we mentioned, you do that little internship right before you sit for your test. And then the number of jobs available in 2018, number of science teaching jobs or teaching jobs in general, we had about over 1 million of them. So it's a good area where there's always need for teachers, especially science teachers. And so you have pretty good job security. And the job outlook between 2018 and 2028, which is about a period of 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's projected to grow at a rate of 4%. So there's going to be job growth in this area. in employment change, it is projected that there will be 38,000 new teaching jobs between 2018 and 2028 rather. So it's a growing field, and there's always need for teachers. So if teaching science is something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend talk to an advisor, or just keep it in mind because it is a growing field, and you will definitely have job security, and the pay is good. Okay, so that was all I had for y'all. I think this brings us to the end of our series, Careers in STEM. And if you have any questions about any of these careers we've covered so far in this series, please feel free to send an email to your advisor or talk to them in person if you are able to. And one more recommendation I give is I recently made a video on study abroad. And so if study abroad is something you are interested in, please check out that video. It's called Study Abroad 101, and it's on this channel as well. That's all I have for you. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time.